So at this time, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Can y'all hear me fine? There we go. Get a little closer. So at this time, I'd like to call this meeting to order for the Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee on November 21st, 2024 at 5:32 p.m. So good evening, everyone, and welcome to our very first meeting of the Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee. First off, I want to thank all of you for your commitment and your leadership and your dedication to be part of this. So being part of this committee allows you to play a very important role in shaping the future of Arlington. So as I was going around the room meeting some of the people, I was looking at and hearing so many different professions. And I really value your ideas and your perspectives and your experience, because that's what's going to help us ensure that we have a community that's going to thrive and will be able to meet the needs of its citizens through participation. So our job is going to be to share a vision that's going to serve as a guide to grow, adapt, improve, and create a stronger, more connected community, not just for you or for me, but for generations to come. So the work we're about to do is meaningful because it's not just about buildings, it's not just about land, it's just about the people. It's about the people that live here. And that's the most important thing there is. So the citizens' ideas and citizens' input is truly the heart and the soul of this process. And your voice is going to help us shape a plan that's going to reflect the values and the aspirations of our community as a whole. So with that, thank you for your commitment on this very important task. And I look forward to getting to know each of you. And together, we're going to be able to create a plan that's going to move Arlington in a very high direction, and the future is very bright. All right. So at this time, John Chapman, Long Range Planning Manager, will introduce city staff and then invite the consulting team to make their introductions. We also, as a committee, will have a brief opportunity to introduce ourselves.
Thank you, Chair. Again, my name is John Chapman. It has been a pleasure already getting to know some of y'all over the phone and through some email conversations. So I am ecstatic that we are all in this room today to serve Arlington for the next 2 years. And I'm very excited to be here as a city planner. I am supported here by 2 members of my staff. I have with me Thanani Devi Palma, who is the Principal Long Range Planner, as well as Tabitha Dye, who is the Long Range Planner. We are also supported by some additional planning and development services staff. Of course, Jincy Thopel, the director. We have Richard Gertson, the assistant director, as well as Lisa Sudbury, who is the development planning manager. We're supported today by 2 additional departments from the city. We have Galen Gatton from the City Attorney's Office, as well as Kristen Wagner from the Office of Communications. Again, I am so ecstatic to be here with y'all. We have a lot of important topics to cover over the next 2 years and to really put Arlington in a direction that will overcome some of these challenges that our families are going through today. So I'm making my parts short and sweet. We're going to talk a lot over the next 2 years, so I will hand it off to Jay to introduce the consulting team. Thank y'all. Oh, actually, just a couple of logistical things. Green light means on, red light means off. Preferred 2 microphones on at a time. So if everyone at a joint table can kind of help police, each other in a friendly manner, that would be great. Is there anything else that I'm missing? I don't think so, not really. So thank you all.
Logistically, maybe restrooms and things
Oh.
like that, John?
So restrooms, I believe both men and women's are to the left down the hall. You'll see the men's first, women's is on the other side of the column.
Maybe some snacks and.
Yes, we also do have snacks. Everyone should have a water bottle at their seat, but we do have some snacks over there. Feel free to get up. You're not stuck in the chair.
Great. Well, good evening, everybody. I'm Jay Rankins with MIG. MIG is a planning and design firm. We've been around since 1982, actually. I've been with the firm for about 19 years. I'm a certified planner and a principal with the firm. I'm now our chief practice officer as of earlier this year, as well as our firm-wide director of planning and design services. And I have a couple of specialty areas in terms of where I practice. One of them is downtown planning, which we just so happen to have developed the current downtown plan for Arlington. Our firm led that effort along with a couple of our partners, which I'll introduce here in a moment. And then comprehensive plans are another one of communities of all sizes, but I think most notably because of some of the recognition that the communities have gotten, both for the planning efforts themselves, as far as the community engagement, as far as some of the methodologies and recommendations, as well as the results. Probably most importantly, we've gotten recognition for some of those larger community comprehensive plans. So of note, Denver is a plan that we updated in 2016, Blueprint Denver. SA Tomorrow, the San Antonio comprehensive plan, was adopted in 2016, developed from 2014 to 2016. And then the Charlotte, North Carolina, it's Future 2040 is the name of that plan. That was adopted in 2021 and actually won the Daniel Burnham Award for the best comprehensive plan in the country the following year. So, and we're joined by a couple team members who worked on that as well, who I'll introduce. But I am joined by our project manager online and our deputy project manager here in the room. Ellie, do you mind maybe unmuting yourself and introducing yourself?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
I don't know if you can see me. Oh, there I am. Yeah. Hi, everyone. Ellie Schaefer, project manager. Like Jay said, I actually worked on all three of those comprehensive plans with Jay in the past. So also one of my specialties. I've been with the firm for about 10 years actually this week, and look forward to meeting you all in person. I'm coming off maternity leave, so I'm not traveling quite yet, but I'm excited to come down later in this effort.
Great. Thanks, Ellie. And Marco? Great, thank you. And then we're joined by a larger team. Folks are on the screen. I want to introduce everybody, but specialty areas in urban design, environmental planning, historic preservation, and a lot of other areas. We complement our team with some frequent teaming partners. NAO partners, and we have another person online, Alicia, who I'll ask to unmute and introduce herself. Well, I'll just let Alicia actually introduce herself, and then I'll fill in the gaps if she doesn't hit what I'm hoping that she does. Alicia, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. I'm Alicia Osborne with NAO Partners, and the company's in St. Paul, but I'm located in Charlotte. I was the project manager for the Charlotte Future 2040 plan. So that is kind of the history with MIG, along with other downtown plans in Charlotte as well. So I joined the team to help with the economic development, the fiscal impact, and the real estate focus of the plan. And I bring that experience from Charlotte as we did a similar process around how do we grow, where do we grow, and how do we make sure that our growth is accompanied with infrastructure investment. So that's, I commend you all for asking for that and adding that into your scope, because that's extremely important to the community as you grow, and to know how the impacts will be in terms of the ability to pay for it. So thank you all for allowing me to be on the team. I look forward to working with you.
Great. Thank you, Alicia. Next, Kurt Schulte, is here with us today. Kurt, you want to introduce yourself and your firm?
Yeah, Kurt, can you guys hear me? Yeah,
Yes.
Kurt Schulte with Walter P. Moore. I'm in the Metroplex area. I kind of cover my practice areas, transportation planning, anything mobility, multimodal mobility, all of that. Walter P. Moore has been in Texas since the 1920s. So we've been around a long time. We're not going anywhere. And I love working with MIG. They're a great partner. I did help them on the downtown plan for Arlington, so that was a good initiative. So looking forward to, I see Bill Frawley over there. Looking forward to this plan. Thank you.
Great. Kurt, and do you mind mentioning Martinez more as well?
Oh, yeah, sorry. We have a subsidiary partner, Martinez Moore, out of Austin, that we do contracting work with Martinez Moore on occasion. And so that's Ralph Martinez is the owner of that company. And we partnered with Ralph because he's a structural engineer. A lot of our company is structural engineers. And Ralph Martinez was starting out in Austin, and we decided to partner with him to help him along until he gets to a certain point, and then he'll split off. So.
Great. Yeah, so between Walter P. Moore and Martinez Moore, they'll really help to dive deeper into the infrastructure component, mobility, transportation, as well as utilities, so that we understand. There was some questions actually from council the other day. We did a work session on Tuesday, and there were questions about, well, what about those places where we've invested public dollars into infrastructure and we haven't seen the private investment kind of come along with it? How do we plan for that? How do we respond to some of those conditions? And so that'll be a piece of the effort, is kind of figuring out where do we have capacity, where there has been investment already, and then where are those constraints, where either we need to make an investment or we need to be careful about what we plan there in terms of future development or redevelopment. We're also joined by Clarion and Associates. We don't have anyone participating in today's meeting from Clarion, but they are a land use firm as well. We've partnered with them, including on the Charlotte plan, but a lot of comprehensive plans around Colorado. And they were on our team for the Amarillo comprehensive plan. And so where we typically team with them is on the policy development. They're very good at sort of policy writing. So we collaborate on coming up with the ideas as a team and with you all in the community. But we like, having their perspective in that realm. And then also thinking about the implications for regulatory changes that may come from the plan. So I think if you don't know yet, a comprehensive plan is a policy document. The implementation of that, a piece would be changes to regulation. And so we want to make sure that we tee that up for implementation the best way that we can. And then I'll let Robin introduce herself and her firm.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Robin Joseph Williams. I'm president of J. Williams Group, working on community engagement for this effort. We're local here in the DFW area, established in around 2012. And so we have teamed with MIG on a variety of different projects around the Metroplex, in addition to Walter P. Moore. So we're very familiar and very excited to work with everyone.
Great, thanks, Robin. This is a organizational chart, which may, complicate things more than it actually communicates here. But in essence, there's in the RFP, the request for proposals, which firms like ours responded to, hoping to do this work. There were several key elements outlined for the plan. So the community vision and values, so there's a kind of a bigger picture visioning piece. And the subtitle there, Shared Dream for Arlington. So what do we want to achieve from that high level perspective? And then breaking it down into major components. So the livable and connected city, which is the built environment. Largely that would be, the public infrastructure connecting things as well as the private development. Complete city, so the community environment. So is it a healthy city? Do people have the amenities they need, access to goods and services, employment? The healthy city, that's the active environment. So thinking about parks and recreation and opportunities for active living. prosperous and innovative city, the economic development component of that, and thinking at all scales, not just the big, corporate headquarters, but small businesses, and thinking about upward mobility and opportunities for quality employment. And then the regional city. So thinking about obviously Arlington, and you all know this well, but some communities think that you can just plan to your borders, and you're all good to go. But I think you're well aware you're a part of this metroplex, and even beyond. We need to think about how we fit into that from a transportation perspective, from an employment perspective, from a housing perspective, and so we'll address that head on. And then importantly, at the bottom there is the implementation plan, the vision realized. So our team members will cover each of these areas, and then as needed, we'll pull in additional staff from each of our companies as we collaborate with the city. And then if necessary, and we have done this here and there on different efforts, if there's something that emerges in the plan that maybe we're not well equipped to handle, which would be a little surprising, but because we are pretty multidisciplinary, especially when you look across the different firms, we could pull in other expertise as well. So just wanted to highlight that. Our experience, I won't go into painstaking detail here, but at the top is just a handful of comprehensive plans and citywide plans that we've worked on. I mentioned several at the outset. And then the bottom portion there is other local experience. So, and members of our team, including myself, worked in Addison, Amarillo, the Arlington downtown plan we mentioned. Dallas, we've worked primarily in the downtown, but also did the TOD strategic plan for Dallas. We've done actually the last 2 downtown plans. We're assisting currently Fort Worth on their comprehensive plan, and Robin's actually leading that effort, and MIG is supporting her. It's primarily on engagement support with a little bit of technical assistance. And then San Antonio, as we mentioned. All right, with that, thank you for your patience, listening to us all introduce ourselves. We want to take some time though to get to know you as well. So I'm going to turn it back over to Ken to lead introduction to the steering committee.
Okay, great. So what I'd like to do is when I call your name, if you'll tell us just a little bit about yourself. We want to know what district that you live in. We want to know what industry that you're in. And we want to know why you wanted to be a part of the steering committee. So I'm going to go first because my name's first on the list. So I'm Ken Cox. I live in District 1. I'm in far North Arlington. The industry that I'm in, I design, build, and manage luxury vacation rentals here in Arlington. And I wanted to be part of this plan because I think that we need to encourage infill development. These will be independent builders that can come to Arlington and give us quality infill development where the big builders are not going to come. So that's mine. And we'll start with Leanna Brady.
Right. Can y'all hear me? Perfect. All right. Perks of having the last name with a B, right? So Leanna Brady, live in the south part of Arlington with my husband. We have a blended family, so 4 kids total, but 2 are in Arlington with us. My son is a senior at Martin High School in the drum line. And we have a new UTA student, her first semester. Addison just started this semester, doing great, loving it. I work at Texas Health Resources. I'm a project director there for operational design and deployment. So that kind of piqued my interest with this work. And then also we're just really invested in Arlington. We live here, we work here, and we love it. So I want to make sure that we're a part of the planning.
All right,
Thanks
thank
for
you.
having me.
All right, next we have Bruce Dalton.
An interest in city of Arlington, has 3 children in AIC schools. They're all out there now. I've got grandchildren running around. And even great grand. Mickey Hunter asked if I would do this. I have a hard time saying no. It's probably genetic. Thankful for that.
All right, next we have William Frawley.
I'm Bill Frawley. I live in District 1 in far north Arlington. Transportation planning is my background. I worked for Texas A&M Transportation Institute, TTI, for 30 years. Retired about a year and a half ago. I did 3 years in Florida doing county metropolitan planning organization stuff there. And for the last year and a half, I've been working a variety of part-time jobs, transportation planning and side contracts, and just wanted to finally, after having worked with citizens advisory committees for 30-something years, it's interesting to be on one and maybe have a little bit of say or voice in how things plan out.
Right, so you switch sides.
I guess you could say that, yeah.
So next we have Zach Graves.
Hi, I'm Zach Graves. I'm a UTA grad, and I graduated with a civil engineering degree. And so I work across the Metroplex with a number of different cities, including Arlington on occasion. My focus is on municipal engineering with a real emphasis on transportation, and that's something I'm super interested in. And that's one of the things I'm really interested in being on part of this committee, is learning how we're going to continue to move and grow, and also just be a place that I can continue to raise my 2 kids who are currently elementary school in North Arlington. We live in District 1. Thanks.
All right, and next we have Gara Hill.
Hi, I'm Gara Hill, and we live in District 4. I moved to Arlington in 2006, and my husband and I, he grew up here, and so I was a transplant, and I am a retired real estate attorney and full-time mom. So we have a 13 and 15-year-old in AISD, and my heart is in public education and fine arts, and so I hope to bring that lens to the table and help however I can.
And next we have Nina Henderson.
Thank you. First, I'll just say it's Nina, not Nina, not Ninja. I'm just Nina, like Columbus's smallest ship, or if I'm going to ring you on the phone, if that helps you, Nina Henderson. I am in my 7th year living in Arlington, Texas. I live in District 4. I love Arlington. I didn't expect to love Arlington as much as I do, because I was born and raised in Alabama, Birmingham. And so it's like and not like. In between, I lived in Australia. And that's part of what drove me to be a part of this committee. I looked for where can I contribute to our city based on my knowledge and experience. I've seen a lot of things planned well, and I've seen a lot of things planned badly, and I've experienced them. I was very excited to see transportation here from the consumer side and planning side, because I think transportation is something we're going to have to really think about. And my job as a realtor, that is not my history. My history is in events and racing. I know I look like that, don't I? Anyway, I'm honored to be here and to be a part of this committee. Thank you very much.
All right, and next we have David Miller.
Good evening. I'm David Miller. I'm a resident of District 2. I've been in Arlington for about 4 or 5 years. My wife and her parents are longtime Arlington residents and public servants. And I actually work in municipal government. I'm a director of Parks and Recreation for a local city of Southlake. So I work on the other side of things quite a bit with several boards and commissions. We're actually updating our Parks and Recreation and open space plan this year. So spend a lot of time with that, and obviously have a passion for the park system and recreation. So excited to be here.
And we have Joseph Murphy.
Yeah, I'm Joseph Murphy. I was born in Arlington, Virginia, and we moved to Arlington, Texas when I was 6 weeks old, so I've been here for a while. And I'm a preservation architect with the Defense Department and live in District 5. And one thing and reason I wanted to be on the committee is in preservation architecture, you learn that you cannot stop change, that change is part of life and living. And what's best about preservation is mediating change with sensitivity. And I think that that's what the comprehensive plan should strive to do, is to try to steer change with sensitivity.
And next we have Victoria Farrar Myers.
Good evening, everyone. Again, Victoria Farrar Myers. Let's see, I've been here since 1998. I currently actually resided for a while now in District 1. I think that's a popular district right now. I am a professor of political science, although currently I'm the founder and executive director of the Nexus Center for Civic Engagement and Leadership. So I train future leaders. I'm very passionate about strategic planning. It's something that I've done for the university, done in a lot of nonprofits and others, but particularly, many of you know, I tried to govern under the last strategic plan. And so I saw a lot of the holes and parts, and having been the UTA rep, I kind of realized the things we left vague were very hard to govern with. So my aim in this go around is to make sure we're very explicit in what we mean, and I'm very much passionate about redevelopment and understanding sort of the policy aspects of it. So that's probably where I'll dig deep. Great to be with you all, and I look forward to the next 2 years.
And next we have Taylor Oldroyd.
Hi, Taylor Oldroyd. It's easy to remember my last name when you think about Star Wars. I am the droid you're looking for. So it's good to be here with you. I am about a 5-year resident of Arlington. I'm in District 2. I'm in the Fannin Farm neighborhood where the peacocks roam freely, which is kind of fun. My job brought me here. I am the CEO of the Arlington Board of Realtors. So homeownership is my passion, and I think homeownership matters, and I hope to bring that perspective to this committee. It's a pleasure to be here. I have my wife and I have 6 kids, only one still at home, and he's in high school at Great Hearts, just right by our house. So it's a pleasure to be here.
And Anthony Powell. And Kirsten Satcher.
Hi, my name is Kirsten, but I never correct people, and my mom was like, you need to correct people. So my name is Kirsten Satcher. I've been living in Arlington for 23 years, so since I was 3 years old. And I grew up here, went to Piercy, Owsley, Seguin, and then I guess I didn't get enough, so I graduated from UTA in 2020 with my bachelor's in broadcast communications. I do not use that. I use my master of education. I am an educator. I am a post-secondary planner at Everman High School, so I help 12th graders figure out what they want to do when they grow up. Not an easy job at all, but it is fun. And I live in District 3, Southeast Arlington. So I love Arlington, and I wanted to be on this committee because I've quite literally watched Arlington grow. Like when I drive downtown, I'm like, this was not here when I first moved here. So I'm just here to like offer perspective. My grandparents are always like asking me questions because they're like, you're young. And I'm like, sure, okay. So I'm just here to offer my perspective and also just to learn. I'm like a lifelong learner. So like I just like to dibble and dabble into different things. So yeah, that is why I'm here.
And next we have Jeremy Skidmore.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jeremy. I've lived in District 5 for the last 6 years. I am a faculty at UTA. Like to see every alumni here as well as other faculty. I'm in the Art and Art History department. My specialty is public arts administration and policy, and I teach in our world-class glassblowing facility. I really hope to be a voice for our cultural producers, our exhibitors, as well as our consumers. So we have a really amazing opportunity to be a central hub for culture here in the DFW.
And we have Robert Snyder. Is Robert here?
I'm Robert Snyder, and I live in District 1. I was born and raised in Arlington, moved away, and then came back about 6 months ago. Arlington's always been very near and dear to my heart, and I plan on staying here for the rest of my life. So I definitely want to be able to provide input and get input from others as well to bring back to the group. I was a commercial real estate broker for 11 years, and then now I'm a commercial real estate portfolio manager for JP Morgan Chase. So I hope to be able to add some good contributions to the group.
And next we have Michael Talambus.
Hi, my name is Mike Talambus. I go by Mike. I'm a CPA. I have a local practice in Dalworthington Gardens, and I live in District 4 in Shorewood Estates. I've been involved with the city of Arlington, particularly planning side of the city, since the year 2000 when they started up their sector planning. I lived in Sector 2, District 2 at that time, so I helped out on the sector plan, and I've been involved in a lot of different plans over the years, whether they're corridor plans or neighborhood plans. I was involved in the last 99.9 square miles plan when I served on the Planning and Zoning Commission for the city, where I saw some other plans. And I rotated off that for a while, and then I just got back on the Planning and Zoning for another 4 years. And I just recently rolled off of that commission just a few months back. And so my objective here is to maybe provide some continuity. I enjoy the planning aspects of looking at the future of Arlington and trying to make an impact of what that might look like for the neighborhoods, for the city as a whole, and just going forward, trying to look at what we can do to make the city great. That's it.
Okay, next we have Jody Tettleton.
Hey, good evening. I'm Jody Tettleton. I'm an architect and associate at Brinkley Sargent Wickinton Architects in Dallas. Grew up here and raising a family here. I live in District 2. Hope to put to use my background and just understanding that what we're doing right now, plans don't come easy. Long-term vision is important, and what I do is my career, and so hopefully using some of that to help the city I am raising a family and living in myself. So.
All right, last one. Your last name starts with W. Carlton Washington.
The beauty of starting with a W. My kids complain about it all the time. But no, my name is Carlton Washington. I reside in District 3, probably the southeasternmost tip of Arlington. 2 kids, been in Arlington for about 20 years, originally from the great state of Louisiana, but definitely glad to be here. I'm from kind of more of the IT industry, IT sales, as I'm a sales rep for Microsoft. Why did I want to be a part of it? I really see Arlington almost as a diamond in the rough, especially here in Texas. Sometimes overlooked, but shouldn't be. And excited to kind of add my perspective. Being here at residence, I feel like this is home and will be home for a long time. So excited for the great work it looks like we'll be doing. So glad to be here.
Okay, so are we finished with introductions at this time?
I believe so.
Okay, we're going to move on then. Agenda item number 3, training on the Texas Open Meetings Act and Texas Public Information Act. At this time, Galen Gatton, Assistant City Attorney, and Richard Gertzen, Assistant Director of Planning and Development Services, will provide training for the steering committee regarding the Texas Meeting Act and the Texas Public Information Act. Then Richard Gertzen, Assistant Director of Planning, will discuss public comments during committee meetings.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen, Galen Gatton, your land use attorney. Thank you all for your attention, and I'm going to give you a 5-minute cursor of Open Meetings Act and Public Information Act. I've left at your place a little handout just going over the basics, but it's important for those of you who have never participated in a government function. I believe Mr. Gertzen is going to discuss a little bit about outreach, and I know that the consultants are going to have a ton of outreach, but want to make it clear that you are at this point an agent of the state in the sense that you are now possibly going to be receiving records And as such, you will be required to make sure that you hold on to any records that you do not receive from city staff. So we would just encourage you to, if you're contacted by anyone, you get any records, or if you generate any records, if you take any notes, that if you hold on to them for the duration of the time that you're on the board. And so that's in your handout. Additionally, you probably have noticed we have a posted agenda, and that is because this is an open meeting. And you probably also noticed that this is being recorded and city staff is here. And so because it's an open meeting, it's important to recognize that members of the public can come in at any time, and they can they're encouraged to come in and sit and watch and see what's being discussed here. So often government gets a bad name for not being transparent and things going on behind closed doors. That is not the Arlington way. And we try to make it very clear to people when things are being done, encourage them to be part of the process. So as we are subject to the Open Meetings Act, we are required to post our agendas in advance. We're required to let everyone know where we're having the meeting. In this case, obviously right here at City Hall. And we're required to tell them what we're going to be talking about. And so that's why you have a posted agenda. For the majority of the time that you serve on this commission, on this committee, you will be discussing items, but none of that is going to require any action on your part, because there's going to be lots and lots of discussion. And I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Gertzen to kind of go over the role of that and how that plays into this. But it's important to recognize we are here to serve you and to help you if you have any questions. So if that handout leads you to more questions, you're certainly encouraged and welcome to go to those sites, learn a little bit about the Open Meetings Act. But most importantly, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to staff, reach out to planning, reach out to the city attorney's office. We're here to help you and get you through this process as painless as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Galen. I'm going to remain in my seat as well, since Galen did.
Set a bad precedent.
Right. And I'm just going to follow up to kind of what Galen was talking about there, with the Open Meetings Act requirements. You know, each of you were selected by council members for a variety of reasons. Many of you were selected because of your special expertise in something, your special knowledge, certainly your knowledge of and commitment to the city of Arlington. I mean, I was amazed when I heard the breadth of the expertise and the commitment right here on this committee. And so you will certainly be bringing all of that information and experience to bear on your discussions and finally, at some point, your deliberations about how to move forward with recommending a comprehensive plan. You also have your own set of personal experiences in cities, not just in Arlington, but certainly cities around the state of Texas, in this country, and I'm sure many of you internationally. So you have, I'm sure, just like me, very vivid memories of great places that you have been, great urban areas. And so you'll want to bring all of that information and experience to bear and let it inform your decision-making. Finally, of course, you have families, and your families will speak to you over the next 2 years about their opinions about things. Your friends will do the same thing. Your business associates and citizens you run into, whether it be in restaurants or that you've known for many, many years, okay? In a very large sense, you speak for all of them with your participation on this committee. Our experience, though, in the last few years here in the DFW area, when cities are considering comprehensive plans, there have been some, shall I say, rather celebrated cases of where the public got extremely active when it came to comprehensive planning that was going on in those communities. And so it's possible, we're not saying it's going to happen, that instead of just coming in and sitting down and listening in the chairs, that they're always welcome to come in and visit with this committee during your discussions. They may ask you or may want to actually address you in some way. Okay? So the question becomes, must you allow citizens to speak during your meeting? And certainly, as Galen mentioned, if at some point you have specific action items on your agenda, you're going to take action, you're going to recommend it to the Planning Commission or to the City Council, then citizens are by law allowed to speak to that. And we have a structure for allowing that to happen because we hold public hearings and action agendas all the time. And so we know how to deal with that structurally, okay? So that's a yes when there's a specific action item. But in all other instances, if they just want to address you, then we leave that up to this committee, first of all, and foremost, principally the chair, Chairman Cox, to make the call as to whether or not citizens should be, have a spot on the agenda to speak, and certainly the consensus of this group. You know, this is a public meeting, as Galen said, but it is not a public hearing. Okay. So we're not suggesting one way or the other. Should citizens at large be allowed to address you all? That ultimately is the call that you all make. So there are some instances where they must be given that opportunity, but the vast majority of cases is that it's up to you all to decide how to do that. Again, we're not saying how you should, but we just wanted you to be aware because you may be asked over the next 2 years by citizens about whether or not the public is going to have input. And there's going to be a lot of opportunities, as Jay and his team are going to talk about, for them to engage and engage very passionately in the discussions about the comprehensive plan. This is just an additional forum here for you all. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Richard. So agenda item number 4, roles of the steering committee. At this time, Jay Rankins will explain and review the roles and responsibilities of the committee members.
Great. Well, I think Richard actually highlighted a little of this, but I'll elaborate a little bit more. So yeah, as steering committee members, we are looking for you to be representative of the community. That could be, well, we want it to be of your family, of your coworkers, of your friends, but also thinking about your neighbors, and try to kind of, I guess, while you want to sort of represent a certain viewpoint, also try to keep an open mind and kind of think expansively about all the different residents of Arlington, as well as employees and visitors to the area. We want you to weigh in. So this is about active participation. We will, as I think you're seeing tonight, this is kind of our style. We want to make sure that you all have an opportunity to weigh in as much as possible. We're going to present information to you. We also don't want to bore you to death or take up all the airtime in a 2-hour meeting with us just talking at you. So we'll make sure that we have opportunities for you to roll your sleeves up. One of the things that we're talking about with that, which we have we'll kind of have you weigh in on some of your preferences, is doing some deeper dive working groups into certain topic areas moving forward. And then spreading the word. So this is a really important one in terms of, I think a lot of times we'll get to the end of a planning process, and despite our best efforts, we have folks who are saying, well, I never know this was even happening. I didn't know that this was going on, and I'm surprised by it. And the city can do a lot of work. Our consultant team can do a lot of work in getting the word out. But we'd ask that you all use your current networks and that sort of thing. It could be forwarding on emails. It could be other materials that we provide to you. But ideally getting the word out about the plan, about opportunities to engage, about some of the recommendations, and preferably getting some or facilitating some, informal discussion around that and getting input and feedback. Our meetings, as we move through the process, there's a meeting schedule, which I'll let John speak to in a moment. But generally, the topics that we're going to cover are today's meeting with orientation. We're going to have a meeting or two at least on vision, goals, and guiding principles of the plan. There's something that I'll elaborate on in a couple of slides, but looking at different growth scenarios, and we keep using the term growth. I think it's planning shorthand, honestly, for change. So what change do we want to see in the community? We're not saying that we have to, grow by 50% or anything like that, but we are going to be looking at regional growth projections for the Metroplex, as well as those that are developed at the state level, and bringing that information to you. So we know that Arlington is projected to grow over the next 20 years. So we'll talk about what that means in terms of housing units and in terms of jobs, and then discuss how and where we want to see that. That'll be put together in some alternative scenarios that we get to kind of play around with, test, think about different trade-offs. Plan elements. Plan elements, we may throw that term around intentionally or unintentionally, but in essence, it means different topics. So it's a comprehensive planning term of art, and it really just means different topics. Sometimes plans are organized by those topics, so land use, transportation, arts and culture, right? Some of those things, infrastructure and utilities. Sometimes they're more thematic and those are kind of integrated throughout. But regardless, plan elements will be a really key piece of our discussion. Once we have that bigger picture vision, we think about the types of places we want to see, or the types of development we want to see where, then we need to get in that nitty gritty of what the implications are, and connecting those places, supporting those different places and the people ultimately, with infrastructure, amenities, services, and then really importantly, implementation. So we're going to have, again, I'm going to turn it to John in a second to hit the schedule. We're going to have many more than 7 meetings, but these are 7 really key topic areas that we'll cover across those meetings. Before we hit the overview of the comp plan, do you want to talk about the schedule, John?
The paper in front of us, or the future agenda?
The paper in front of you.
Sure. So everyone has a sheet that identifies all of the anticipated, open to discussion meetings that can and or will take place in 2025. So we will discuss the next 2 meetings here at a later agenda item, but have this somewhere where you can see it. If you lose it, email us. I can get you a new copy. But this will be something handy to keep in mind for y'all for this next year.
Great. Thanks, John.
Okay, next on the agenda is the overview of the comprehensive plan. Jay Renkins is now going to introduce and review Arlington's current comprehensive plan and how it relates to current city development.
Great. So I think frequently people wonder why we would update the plan. So the plan is considered relatively, I wouldn't say old at this point, but I'd say due for an update. And if you think about, in particular, the things that have happened over the last decade plus, there's been quite a bit of change in terms of how we move around, in terms of how we shop, and where we work and how we work. The pandemic being a huge influence. I think some of the changes in sort of social and racial justice over the last 5+ years, all kind of converge and provide this sort of framework for thinking about how do we want to move forward. Another piece that John and Jinsey and I and others have been talking about, really, I'd say maybe since the interview and a lot over the last few days, has been about kind of thinking about the life cycle of cities, and as a city, starts as a smaller town, it's all about growth and investment, and the tax base is increasing, the infrastructure is all new and shiny, and at a certain point where those households are aging, the homes themselves, the infrastructure is aging, and there's a decision point. Do we continue to sort of allow that degradation, and we're just kind of, if you think about maybe an older home, are you just kind of patching things as they go wrong, and kind of getting by? Or are we making strategic investments? Are we doing it? Are we planning for a major renovation of that home to make sure that it has a new life? It can support new generations of families and households, of residents. And so that's what we want to do in thinking about the city. What are those, if we strategically plan ahead, think about the different things that are going to be happening within the city, across the region. How are we planning effectively for that and making sure that we're making the right investments, whether that be where we spend staff time or where we are investing in public infrastructure, where we're changing the regulation to maybe encourage something, discourage something, allow something, and thinking about how does Arlington really thrive over the next 20 years, which is our planning horizon, which means the sort of the how we're looking out 20 years in this plan. But really beyond that, obviously, we want to think about generations to come. So really key to this overall piece. The anticipated scope. We're breaking the plan into 3 major phases. So the first is this assessment and visioning phase. So there we're going to be reviewing existing plans, documents, and data. One of the things that, again, based on some of the things that we've talked about already with staff, talking to different stakeholders, talking to council on Tuesday, that we'll want to do is think about that sort of life cycle of the city, but maybe more importantly is starting to think about the life cycle, the age, the condition of different neighborhoods and districts. Arlington is a pretty large place. So it's not a one-size-fits-all set of issues and challenges nor solutions. We want to make sure that we're really customizing that for the different areas of the community. So that vision, while we want to have a big overarching vision for the city, we want to allow for some nuances within that in terms of our goals and guiding principles, because what makes sense for one part of the city may not quite make the same sense for another part of the city. But we'll create that vision framework in that first phase, which will extend basically from now through midsummer of next year. There'll be a lot of community engagement that goes along with that. And so a very key piece over the next few weeks is taking input that we're receiving this week and some of the feedback that we're getting to create a community engagement plan. I talked about this if anyone listened in to the council meeting, I apologize for repeating this, but we talked about how do we kind of pivot and adjust throughout the process. We want to make sure that we're hearing from a true representation of residents across the city. And we have great expertise with Robin and her team, with MIG's experience in community engagement, where we can bring some really creative tools, both in-person tools, online tools, to try to engage a broad audience. But ultimately, we want to make sure that, we're kind of testing that we're recording that we're reflecting upon that, and then sort of adjusting accordingly along the way. So we will be developing an overarching community engagement plan and then doing a phase-by-phase targeted strategy to make sure that we're hearing from a true representation, again, of the community. Our second phase, and there'll be a diagram that shows us a timeline in a second, but they overlap a little bit. So as we're kind of firming up the vision framework, the goals, the guiding principles, we'll start to work on this idea of the place types and sort of the change management or growth kind of component of the plan. One of the things that and I'll elaborate on this in a second too, but one of the things that we'll be doing is using a construct that is not unique to MIG, but we are one of the probably leaders, I guess, in helping to advance this work, is thinking about not just future land use, what can go where in terms of the type of development, but what does that development look like? And maybe even more importantly, what are the implications for the infrastructure, for the amenities that need to support that? And ultimately thinking about that through this place framework, we call them place types. But I've heard a lot already from folks, working in some of the shops and from the council members on Tuesday, that there's sort of this lack of legibility, in a sense, of the city of Arlington, which part of that is not knowing, and that's part of being part of a metroplex, I suppose, is not knowing where Arlington starts and ends. But I think more importantly, they're saying, like, you don't, other than downtown and maybe the entertainment district, there aren't, really legible places that you can kind of wrap your arms around. And I think some of you, I'm guessing, would argue that maybe your neighborhood is one of those places that we can self-identify and, we take a lot of pride in. Well, we want to build on that success, but we also want to sort of introduce that across the entire community. So with that, then we're going to be looking at those scenarios that I mentioned, and working with Alicia and her team, working with Kurt and his team to understand the implications for the cost to the city of different development patterns and scenarios, thinking about the infrastructure that's needed, as I mentioned, and ultimately thinking about the places that we're creating as a result. And then finally, phase 3 is review and adoption. So that's actually all the way into 2026, February 26th through October 26th. So about 2 years from now, a little less, is when we'd be hopefully wrapping up. And so in that phase of the project, we'll be documenting everything, thinking about the different ways that we want to communicate the plan to different audiences, and then making sure that we're building in plenty of time for you all to do a deep dive review, making sure we're reflecting everything appropriately, incorporating all the pieces that we talked about along the way, and then making sure that the public has a chance to do that as well before it goes before council for review and adoption. The timeline here, as I said, is about 2 years, and you can see how those phases start to overlap a little bit, but generally, the first half of 2025, as well as the next couple of months is phase 1. The second half of 25 and the very beginning of 26 is phase 2. And then the rest of 26 through October is phase 3. So our engagement methods, actually, Robin, do you want to take the lead here and sort of overviewing a few of our different types of engagement? I like getting extra voices in here.
Absolutely. Okay. Hi, everyone. Yeah, so we have a
Can you
variety.
move a little closer to the mic?
Oh, a little bit more closer? How about this? Okay, great. So you can notice on your sheet here and also on the screen, we do have a variety of tools that we can use based on the size of audience, where it is, the topic, location, things like that. So primarily, we use a lot of community workshops that work quite well. Again, topical areas, getting people acquainted with the project, spreading the word about the project, and that often works well at various points in time in the project. Then we have pop-up events, which are very, very convenient. We kind of go where the people are. If there's an existing meeting or a festival, you name it. We've been in shopping centers. We've been, in parks, restaurants, you name it. And so we meet the passersby. They'll stop, give us some input, interface on the project, and we can get some good input there. We also have focus groups, which are, again, based on topics. Typically, you can get a smaller group really digging in and rolling up their sleeves on a particular item and coming out with some good data out of those processes. Then questionnaires, which we can do a lot with. We can push those out via social media and different channels, get some good demographic information and geographic information and find out where we're getting responses from. So that's really effective too. And then you have the much larger community open houses when you have more data to present to the public and get larger batches of feedback there and interface and have a good documentation of that process. So these are just a few of the many.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Robin. Appreciate that. And then we have a few images kind of showing how we've done this in other places, but again, sort of emphasizing that we want to make this as interactive as possible. So we'll think about different ways to engage folks, large group discussions, small group activities, and then thinking about the time too. If we go back to the last slide for a second, at a pop-up event, which would be, or a community intercept event, let's say, where we're at a larger community event that's happening already, it's not realistic to think that someone's going to stop and talk to you for 30 minutes, right? So what can they do in, a minute or 3 minutes where that's beneficial? And then how do we maybe direct them to get more information about the project moving forward, and what are those opportunities to engage over the, coming months, that sort of thing. We also, as I mentioned, have online and in-person tools. And so this is just an example of some of those online tools. This is a digital graphic recording in the upper right. We use things like Mentimeter, which we're going to use on you all a little later in the meeting. We do some virtual Post-it notes and whiteboards and that sort of thing, and can do virtual open houses. We do have a scoped to development of a game. So we have done this in several communities, including as depicted here in Charlotte, where we've developed, we call it the Growing Better Places game. And it's a board game that is customized to each community, a map of the city of Arlington in this case, using the place type palette that we will develop. So the set of place types to help understand the trade-offs associated with different types of growth or change, reinvestment, understanding kind of the relationship of public and private sector, which surprisingly, I guess because, I'm in this every day and we do it all the time, sometimes is unclear to people, sort of where those edges are. You'll hear people say, well, how come the city isn't putting a grocery store right here? Well, the city is not necessarily in the business of developing or operating grocery stores. But they can provide the regulatory framework, perhaps incentives, to encourage that from the private sector. So really helping to educate folks, but also as a means of getting input. Youth engagement, we'll be looking at, here we're showing, junior high age, but we're looking at students at UTA, looking at high school students, other opportunities to engage young professionals, young adults. And then this is a really fun opportunity that I'm going to let John speak to, that we're already getting some participation from the community on.
Thank you. So hopefully y'all have heard about the naming survey, whether that be from email or from the city's social media campaign that went out. So we've received a lot of good comments regarding the name. That will go active for the rest of the year. It will end right before midnight on New Year's. So definitely engage your networks, let them know about the comp plan, the naming survey. We need some good ideas. Ideas will not stop with the survey. I will talk about future agenda items as well as dates. One of those being having a larger discussion with y'all about the name of this plan. It's a very important that really identifies ownership, not only with this committee, but with the city as a whole. And as it moves forward, that will become the name that is said for 20 years, roughly. So it's very important. It should be an icon, basically, stand on its own. So some of those steps, after we have a discussion and form a recommendation, we will then meet with council who will make that final determination. The Office of Communications will then draft the logo, and we'll have some mock logos kind of as to help us through discussions at future meetings. But the Office of Communications for the city will create that logo as well as the branding. The goal here is to have everything established for our public engagement start, which is in March of 2025. So that is a lot because the name is very important. There's going to be a lot of discussion on that as it's a very impassionate discussion. I'll say that. So we'll talk about it more at the future agenda items section, but just a brief synopsis of where we stand now.
Great. Okay, and now we actually wanted to go into an interactive discussion. Is it okay if I keep going?
Yes, go ahead, continue.
All right. So one of the things that we've used successfully in a few places is this kind of headline exercise. So hopefully folks grabbed at least one of those on their way in. We have a variety of kind of different, I guess, leads, you could call it, on the right-hand side. and a few different sort of above the fold images that are sort of floating around the room. But ultimately, what we want you to do is, most importantly, kind of think about the date, November 19th, 2044. So 20 years in the future, what is the headline about the city of Arlington? We wanted everyone to take, a minute, 2 minutes, kind of think about this and write your headline on the sheet. And does anyone not have one on the committee? You're missing one? Okay, so we'll grab you one. Marco is on the move. And so again, take your time. And also, does anyone need a writing utensil? Like, does everyone have? You're good? Okay. So we will ask folks to share these and then we'll collect them. But again, kind of think about the future of Arlington. Think about what would be the big headline, particularly if we as a committee, as a community, are successful in creating a great plan for what you'd like to see over the next 20 years. And your headline does not have to go with the lead that's on there. That was more so a fun way to fill the space, I guess. All right, folks can finish writing, of course, but I see Jeremy is ready maybe to go. So Jeremy, do you mind sharing your headline?
No longer DFW. Arlington becomes regional center.
All right, okay. Just Jeremy, anything in particular that you think would be one or two things that would help achieve that?
Possibly housing.
Yeah,
More housing.
okay.
Also, we need a more vibrant downtown.
Yeah.
We
We want to be the center of the region. We need to make sure that we have a vibrant center.
We need to have a cultural vibrant center, walkable, and somewhere where our regional neighbors want to come to.
Great. Awesome. Thank you. All right. And I don't know what, this is like a glare for me. We can just go around the room.
My headline is, if you want it, you can find it here.
Okay. Meaning,
Arlington's full of diversification and a lot of opportunities are here, so whatever somebody's looking for, whether it's entertainment or real estate or retail, it's all here.
so we are a complete community, the city of Arlington. No, there's no need at least to leave.
That's true.
All right. Great. Thank you.
I have two because I'm indecisive, but both of mine are like song titles because I love music. One is Wildest Dream, and like Arlington is big about being like the dream city, the little I love it, the dream letters. I took high school graduation pictures over there. So like that's a Taylor Swift song, and like this can be somebody's wildest dreams. As someone who works for children, they're big dreamers, and they have like the wildest dreams, but like a lot of those things can come true, and like so can whatever our plan or whatever our thoughts for Arlington, it can be our wildest dream and it can come true.
Yeah,
And
so,
my second-
so just
Oh.
on that one, so I guess I would translate that to, we want to make sure we're thinking big.
Yes,
Yeah.
very big. Like I'm very over the top. So yes. And then
Great.
the other one is like like Arlington Renaissance, like Beyonce's album. Love her. Big Beyonce fan, but Renaissance means like rebirth. And with like new plans, it's like rebirthing the city. Like it is what it is now, but like it can continue to like change. So for the better. So a Renaissance or Wildest Dream would be what mine would be.
Love it. Thank you. Next time we'll do song titles like in directly. I think it's a good one. All right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, kind of like I asked Jeremy, maybe one or two things you think that would enable Arlington to do, like what would we have to change or add or kind of or message to win the bid? Okay, well, that's could be part of our charge for the next 2 years, figuring that out. Great.
Mine's a little bit long, but Arlington is economically diverse.
Your editor would give you a hard time, but it's good. You packed a lot in there. I like it. All right, thank you. All right. Okay. Awesome. Next. Is there, I get, in your estimation, and others can chime in too, but is that happening today, or are we kind of, are we losing a lot of the younger, kind of folks that are growing up here, they're going other places and not coming back? Yeah, one or two additional thoughts on that? Are we already, yeah,
I
Ken?
have
go ahead.
additional thought on that. So we've lost a lot of people to other cities over the years. I've been here for 34 years and I owned a small business and my customers were people that were moving away and they started moving to Colleyville, many of them, and then they moved to Southlake. And so we've had some migration because they wanted something that Arlington didn't have.
Yeah,
I
any
have a
other?
thought.
Yeah, go ahead.
A lot of like my peers, like that came to Arlington for like college for UTA, like that's what brought them here. Would like stay a year or two, maybe after graduation, and they moved to Dallas. Like that's where all my friends live in Dallas. I'm the only one who lives like in Arlington or to Grand Prairie too, because it's a good in between spot. But like no, not a lot of my peers are like staying. They just moved to Dallas.
Have they said why exactly, or can you speculate?
I mean, that's where quote unquote the fun is. And like things like Texas Live and stuff like that, that wasn't there when we were in school. So our idea of going to like have a good time, have fun was going to Dallas. And so in their opinion, like that is just where they like want to live. And they're also more attracted to like the city life. Whereas like Arlington, like I had a friend tell me I'll like move back to Arlington when I'm like ready to like get married, have kids, settle down.
Okay.
Not like in their mid 20s, younger
Yeah.
20s.
Okay, great. One more on this. Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Perspective I saw when I was working in the bank was that we saw a lot of neighborhood relocating to neighborhoods, not necessarily leaving the city, but just going on. And a lot of it had to do with they were looking for the schools or they were looking for employment on that. So like he was right, some leave the city, but again, that goes back to they're looking for at their career, what their career move is. So I saw a lot of refocusing in the neighborhoods. So
yeah.
If you look in the neighborhood I live in East Arlington, I'm one of the younger ones there, and I'm already 70 years old. So
You're the
When I
young
moved in, we
whippersnapper.
had three children going to Amos Elementary, but we don't have that anymore. So just if you take a recent holiday like Halloween, we probably had a very small sample come through the streets. Well, years ago, we would have been, the block would have been full of kids. So
Gotcha.
we're seeing a relocation in neighborhoods. So I don't know if that's going to be part of the scope of our planning, but
Absolutely.
keep that in mind.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we do have an older neighborhoods versus more affluent neighborhoods in different parts of the city.
Great. Thank you. All right. Let's keep going on the headlines. Go ahead. Ooh, I like it. Are there particular areas you'd want Arlington to be leading on in 2044? Great. Yeah, leading from the heart. I like that a lot. Ken.
So my headline is Arlington voted best place to live in Texas.
All right. That one's pretty self-explanatory. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. I got caught up in the plane, sorry. I heard you after you said that. I was like, ah. So mine came out, Gateway to the US opens to the world.
Hmm.
I'd like to see us internationalize our focus and not see, like when we think about economic development, not just bringing in world headquarters, not just regional headquarters, growing our small business ecosystem to really develop into that. I mean,
Mhm.
small businesses drive the economy in the US. Why not drive the economy in the region? And so instead of us looking at Dallas and Fort Worth, Arlington is 7 miles away from DFW. We should be the gateway to the world. We already have a very wonderful international community that I think we can capitalize. So that's
Yeah.
why in 2024, I want them to say that.
Great. Thank you. Next.
I wrote two headlines. The first one is Arlington Cowboys win their first Super Bowl at home.
Well done.
It's a process.
Well, when we're the center of the region, like
That's
they're gonna
right.
obviously
But you
rename.
noticed the name change.
I
from
did.
that,
I
yeah.
did.
But my more serious one, and it kind of branches off of these two, actually, Arlington becomes the top place to live and visit in the world.
Wow. Nice. We're thinking big. I like it.
I can't follow that. The first one I wrote because I looked at the whole date because it says November, not just 2044. And so I said, you're always welcome at home. Thanksgiving has never been so exciting. And then I thought, no, that's not it. And I just said, come home to wow. If you haven't been to your hometown in 20 years, wow, it would be dramatic. And I was thinking diversity, because that's part of what attracted me to here. Location, everything to do, because we can stimulate everything and you can be calm and do nothing and be with family and have access to so much.
Great.
That's mine.
Awesome.
You're-
Thanks, Danielle. Taylor?
Okay, mine is Arlington realizes big dream.
So that's good. I'm just curious. So the thing I realized, or like I tuned into right away is realizing it. So we've implemented
Yeah,
what the
so
big
we-
dream is. What's your big dream?
Well, we're the Dream City, kind of going off what was before. So Dream City's vision, now reality, but then I kind of switched it around to, we realized the big dream. And to me, it's, safety, prosperity, and community. So we knocked it out of the park with our plan.
Great. All right. Thank you.
Okay, mine was Arlington, now officially the entertainment hub of North Texas. I really think there's a lot of things that sometimes are overlooked that are just right here housed in Arlington. I think we may not have some of the infrastructure in place to actually take full advantage of those items that are already housed, and I think more things are to come. So if we can kind of put a plan in place so that we can be prepared for the growth that is, I think, coming our way, I think we will be in an ideal situation.
Great. Yeah, just a quick thought on that is it's just one example, and I think there's a couple others, but leveraging what we have, right? Like we want to make this, we're not planning a city from scratch. So what are the great assets we have? Ken talked about the people, but we have downtown was mentioned, the entertainment district, there's some great neighborhoods. So how are we building on that throughout this process? Yeah.
Yeah, and certainly if you get the Olympics, that would help with your goal, your headline, right? So, okay, my headline was Arlington ranked top city in the US to live, work, and play.
All right, let's do it.
So I didn't cheat. David has said this and now you have said this, but I said live, work, play the Arlington way.
Ooh, catchy.
I just put a rhyme at the end.
Nice.
All right, so let's see, I got major shakeup. Arlington is branded as epicenter of regional collaboration.
Ooh, nice. Do you feel like Arlington is pretty collaborative now or no?
I think Arlington is
Do you mind using that?
I think Arlington is collaborative, and we have a lot of groups here that are working across the Metroplex, but I think both are placed geographically and the kind of elements that we have here and some of the treasures we have here allow us to be leaders in that collaboration. So that, it's not just, again, the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, but Arlington is seen as kind of the trendsetter and the place that people want to stay and want to come.
Yeah, great. It was mentioned that live, work, play came up several times. Just a couple thoughts from maybe a few people willing to share. How would you rank Arlington now on live, work, and play? Are we knocking out of the park on one of those? Are we abysmal on one of those? Are we kind of like a good 7.5 on all three? How do you think we're doing on live, work, and play? Anyone willing to share?
There's a lot of opportunities to play, and that's a wide age range, all the way from amusement water parks up to Texas Live and the Cowboys and Rangers and all the special events that come into Texas, like the boxing match that was just here, or matches that were here recently. So I think play is a big success story, all the way even down to youth baseball tournaments that bring people in from other cities and areas, as well as just all the youth sports organizations too.
Yeah, great. So we're doing pretty well on the play portion. Other thoughts about kind of ranking us on live, work, and play? Okay. Okay. Yeah. Any thoughts on work? How many people amongst the committee, your place of work is in the city of Arlington? Okay.
I consider DWG Arlington, so, I'll count myself in that.
Okay, great. So a little less than half of the committee,
Yeah.
probably. Interesting. Okay.
So on
Please,
that,
go ahead.
just a comment, play, I think we need to position ourselves when gambling comes available to the state, one day it will. I think we should position ourselves to have the casino located in Arlington. State will only get, North Texas will only get one casino. And, either it's gonna go downtown Dallas or certainly not Grand Prairie, but I think Arlington should position itself to allow for that. Some might say we don't have enough land available for casinos, but I think that I think we do, and I think we should make a play for that. As far as the living, once again, it gets back to the older neighborhoods and the degradation of all of our old neighborhoods that need to be revitalized and repurposed and grown in a constructive way. We need to protect our neighborhoods in Arlington from intrusions from commercial or industrial areas, and maybe rebuild or repurpose some of the current industrial areas that have existed for 40, 50 years, that neighborhoods have grown around, and it's no longer a good location for that industry to be there, and maybe repurpose those into some strong neighborhoods. We have an excess of entry-level type housing in Arlington from years and years of entry-level type development going on. And so therefore, that's why a lot of people are moving to the Friscos and that to get the higher value products and education. So as far as work goes, I think that we have excellent opportunities to grow that area. Once again, like we're minutes from the airport.
Hmm.
And so
Yeah.
transportation's right, the railroad comes right through Arlington, so.
Great.
Yeah.
Nina, do you have a thought on this one before we move on to the next question?
Well, I was just going to address play. It would be interesting to know, if we can know for our future work, what percentage of people in Arlington actually play in Arlington. The Taylor Swift concert, the Tyson fight, a lot of the big events that really come here when the World Series was here,
Mhm.
when we have major events, what percentage of our population can actually afford or choose to afford to attend those events as a priority? That's an interesting number. I don't know that residents really play here
Mm.
in that way. I love that you use the example of playing at our youth fields. I think we do a lot to provide for families in a younger, in a growth development mechanism, but every kid doesn't get the pass to go to Six Flags every summer or the water park. I don't know those numbers because I'm new here. So I think that would be really interesting to know. We are a good playground. Are we a smaller version of Las Vegas? Is that our focus? Is a question to me. I don't have that answer, but I'm curious.
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, starting to flip some of these, or look at these, well, in that case, the entertainment district or the play component, and starting to think about it from different perspectives. Like you said, there's a lot of people playing in Arlington. Are they necessarily the residents of Arlington, or what portion of them? And yeah, we'll try to help tease that out as much as possible. One final thought on this?
Well, yeah, because my teenage son, he can't go to Six Flags by himself anymore because they did change the policy because of safety issues. So I think we need some options for kids that maybe aren't in sports. The entertainment district is mostly for adults and families. Family options too, but not for kids anymore because policies had to change because of a few bad actors.
Yeah. Great. Okay, so what I want you to do now is actually flip your sheet of paper over, the headline sheet, and write down a couple of answers to this question, and then I'm going to ask, not everyone will share, but we'll ask some folks to share. So what are some of the key topic areas that you think should be addressed? And go a little deeper than transportation, land use, economic development. We will be covering those topics in the plan. But particularly, kind of digging a little deeper. And I think, that was a great example, actually, a great segue. You know, we're known for play. How many people living in Arlington actually have access to that, whether it be financially or otherwise? So some of those sorts of questions or topics that you want to dig deeper into this process, that'll help inform our existing conditions analysis and work, some of the data that we uncover and present to you all to help with framing those scenarios moving forward, and even thinking about some of the types of places that we're trying to create or enhance. So take just a couple minutes on that, and then we'll start to ask for some folks to share on that. So we'll spend about maybe 10 minutes on this question. And then the next piece, we're actually going to use that Mentimeter that I talked about, which is well, it's an online polling exercise. So we will ask you to use your phones at that point. We have a QR code, I guess both in your packet as well as on the screen, it'll show up. All right. Taylor, I think I saw you put your pen down. Yeah. Do you want to share one of the topics that you think we need to kind of do a dive into in this effort?
Certainly, I think it was kind of alluded to earlier, but I wrote it down as housing diversity. We do have single family and a lot of multifamily, but we don't have any of the quote unquote missing middle. Just don't think we have the housing options, so housing diversity to allow people from all walks of life
Yeah.
stay here. And of course, that goes into affordability and accessibility as well, but housing diversity.
Great, thank you. I'm gonna just take volunteers here. Anyone else want to go next?
The role of education in communities and the both strengths and weaknesses that can provide, especially given that some policies will be out of the city's control in determining what public education looks like in our community.
Great. Yeah, we just to let you know, we are going to be continuing to engage with other community partners and figuring out kind of how to slot them in, school district being one of them. Not that they're the only education provider per se, but just as an example. So we're discussing about, you know, as we develop the engagement plan, where do they fit in best in terms of focus groups, engaging with this group directly, working groups, that sort of thing. So yeah, absolutely, we'll be engaging the school district. Yeah, go ahead, Bill.
I think we've got to find creative and innovative ways to get people into and out of the entertainment district, whether that's some traditional types of transit or other ways to get people moving around. So can't really add any more lanes to I-30 and Collins Street and so on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, go ahead.
On my point, does Arlington have the ability to become a true convention city? I think that we're kind of building to that. But I think if we take some other steps, we can actually almost open up another type of revenue by becoming a city that's known for hosting conventions of all sorts, from professional to sports and what have you.
Right. Yeah, and then starting to think about the mobility piece of that, the lodging piece of that, right? There are other things that people want to do in addition to attending that convention or event. Yeah, absolutely. Over there.
I went deeper in the weeds.
Great.
I said, zoning categories and regulatory frameworks that incentivize neighborhood redevelopment and land reuse.
Yeah, absolutely. So we won't be rewriting the zoning code in this effort, of course, and encourage folks on this committee to engage in the form-based code effort, although that's going to be for some pretty specific geographies. But as we talked about, or I talked about, I guess, in the overview, that would be a next step. So absolutely, we want to tee that up, start to think about what those implications are and what are we don't want to establish any recommendations or goals that we can't figure out how would we move the dial on that, how we would achieve those. So absolutely. Yeah.
I think encouraging sustainability, because like as a preservation architect, I know the greenest building is the one that's already built. And for instance, like Lincoln Square, they're reimagining Lincoln Square, reusing some of the existing stock to rehabilitate it into something new. And I think the way that you can incentivize that is important.
Yeah, great. Let's see, hands all across the board there. Let's go here next. Yeah.
I put safety. Not that I necessarily feel particularly like unsafe in Arlington. However, I've just heard like through my peers and just people that I'm around that there's like a rise. I don't know the numbers with that, but there is like a rise in crime in Arlington. And as like a single young lady, like that is of concern. Like if I live by myself, am I safe here? And also just like developing like positive relationships with the people that are put in place to keep us safe. You know what I'm saying? Like again,
Yeah.
that's not necessarily a Kirsten thing, but it is a concern in the city.
Yeah, that's great. Jeremy, and then
I actually wrote about zoning as well, but not saying exactly what to do with zoning. But I see a very limited stock of production availability for culture here, such as live workspaces that I've seen in many other cities, as well as light industrial for producing ceramics or glass or light arts,
Yeah.
sculpture as well. There's also seems to be a very limited availability in terms of play, other than the Disneyfied cultural center we have there.
we got those big opportunities.
We have big opportunities, but we have very small, medium-sized or small-sized opportunities to play.
Yeah.
Or there's very few exhibition spaces here. Almost none in a small capacity.
Great.
And in terms of living, we do have a very limited stock of affordable homes for new families. I came here in 2018 with the hope that I would be able to buy a house, and within a few years, it was completely unreachable. And I make a median salary at UTA.
Wow. Yeah. On your very first point, around like live work and light industrial and places to fabricate and that sort of thing. There are communities in the most formal program is probably it's a community in New Jersey. I think it's in Hoboken, but they did makerhood was the idea. And so it was thinking about the creative class, artists. And
Richard, Florida.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. And how to cultivate that and create more spaces, and whether that be concentrated in one place or maybe it's even better if it's distributed throughout the city. But obviously thinking about some of those creative opportunities. Next.
I think it's really important to look at how we can rebalance the residential and commercial uses within the city. Currently, a lot of the residential development is in South Arlington. And, you know, part of that has to do with obviously the entertainment district up here and whatnot. But I think having that balance, especially as we determine what our transportation is going to be like in the future and how people can get back and forth to work, to and from work, to play, to live, you know, all of that stuff. I think it would be good to look at that.
Yeah. So in planning, people sometimes talk about like the live work. Well, people think about life work balance as an individual, but live work balance in terms of a geography. And do you have employment opportunities to kind of match the housing? And part of that's just the sheer numbers. Part of it's incomes versus the cost of living in a place. And so I think there's a lot of different ways we can kind of slice and dice that to think about what sort of employment opportunities do we have, do we want to create, as well as the residential kind of component to go with that, or that matches that. Absolutely. And not to say that I don't think there probably is a place if it's sort of very isolated where everyone lives and works, you know, in the municipal boundaries. So we're not saying that, you know, we want to capture everyone who's living here has to work here, but understand the dynamic, and then thinking about the transportation implications too are really important. Great point. Yeah.
One of the things I think that Arlington needs to promote and protect its brand more. For example, you know, we have the Dallas Wings in Arlington, or we have the World Cup Dallas. I think we should be more aggressive in asserting ourselves that. You know, the Trinity Trail was just renamed DFW Trail. Totally left out Arlington, even though we have a major component called the River Legacy Trail. So we need to enforce that Arlington should be a part of that. Even on the university at UTA, they're, you know, now they're having a campus in West Fort Worth. There's some concern that perhaps there's a movement to consolidate all the universities in the UT system and just call it the University of North Texas and leave out Arlington, UTA altogether. And so I think we need to step up to the plate more and demand that we're a big city, and we need to bring our big boy dance to the plate.
All right. Yeah.
I just getting places, getting around being a major one. I think it kind of talks to it about in and out of entertainment center, but just getting, if we're wanting all these huge goals for the city, navigating the city is critical. So I think we've talked about transportation already this evening, but putting it on a key topic, I think, is important.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe a little further there, I want to see us as a leader in how we can navigate with vehicular traffic in this city. I think there's tons of already mass transit discussions that are already in place. I think leading from a vehicular traffic standpoint is something I'd like to see us focus on. We've got a lot of reasons that is important. One of them on the rail yard there, and making cars here is one of them. And so that's how almost everybody gets around here. So let's make it a better experience than we have, and one that we can shine as a star in how we lead here.
Okay, great. Pet and bike also would be a part of that mix. Okay. Well, and you bring up a good point. There are other conversations happening, whether it be around transit or other topics in the city, in region, you know, that affect Arlington. And so that'll be a key piece of the work that the staff does, that our team does as consultants, is making sure that we bring that information to you and help connect the dots so that those efforts are, you know, all pointing in the same direction and jiving. So look for that throughout. And if you hear of something that we're not bringing up in the meetings, please bring it to our attention. And we will do our very best to engage with whoever those other parties are.
Yeah, I don't mean that we steer away from that. I definitely think we raise our hand very high in the mass transit department, but it's a broader conversation than just us. So I think focusing on something that we can create change in, traffic lights, how we can make vehicular transit in this city better is all I'm saying. And so you mentioned pedestrian and bicycle as well. So those are critical things that I know that we can help.
Yeah, great. Was there, yeah, Nina?
I have 5 points, but I'll just give you a couple.
Yeah, please.
One of them is we need a place for our seniors to live and to not just live in a box, but to thrive. A lot of our real estate would be freed up if they had a place to go where they could live in place and live well. But there's not one. We have some beautiful townhomes downtown, but there's no elevator. There's no lift in there for people to go down to their car and back up because mobility is limited. So we're not building. And I know I went to the code-based meeting just to talk about and discover more about that. We don't build for the long-term future like you're talking about. And we need to plan for that. And people that are seniors will engage and live longer. And that means they contribute their dollars into the community and they don't just keep it in their house. They don't go see their neighbors, but if they're right next door and they can meet at the coffee shop and it's just a short walk to that. And by the way, there are moms with kids that are also there in the coffee shop. If we have that kind of environment, people will leave their 3,000 and 4,000 square foot homes and live in community with their neighbors. But right now, I don't know of anywhere in North Texas that's doing that. We could be the great place to retire to if we chose to. What a great place to have art. What a great place to have thriving businesses that are looking for patrons throughout the day, not just a few hours of the day, longer in the day. So to me, a very important element is that silver tsunami that's coming, that's about to spend a whole lot of money or pass it on to their kids, and they may take it somewhere else that's not here. So let's keep it here and let's give them a place to live with dignity. And I think Arlington is a great bedroom community that could be a really cool, hip place for seniors to retire. That's one idea. The other one I really want guidance on is I need help with flying cars because we're trying out flying cars. I'm dying to be a Jetson and I really want to live in that environment. I understand that traffic patterns and how that's going to work in the air is a little bit problematic, but we're one of 2 places in the country that's actively doing that. We have to plan for that. Where they're going to land, how they're going to distribute people. And we're talking about a time frame that can happen. And we need to know how to splash those people and not cluster those people in your traffic pattern that you're talking about. Do we have a free bus transport system that moves around Green Oaks because it is our perimeter? And we have a dedicated bus lane, petty lane that gets around the city and moves effectively. I lived in a town that did that in Australia, and they tried it out just like we tried out our via rideshare. That was very effective, but they did it with a bus. And then they added another one that connected the university to the beach because their international students wanted to go. And so there are lots of ways that we could do that. Do we try something out? And if it doesn't work, we modify it just like we did with VIA. So that's 2 of them. And my third one that I really want to squeak in is how tall can we go without interrupting the flight plan? Is 3 floors as high as we can really go? Can we go more? And why don't we build in places to park in those buildings and put a beautiful facade on it so that we aren't wasting all of our land on parking these cars that we spend either time in them on the freeway or on the road and not actually moving along and have, like some cities are doing, only these hours of the day can you be in here? And is there a specific tag that you have to do that? I don't have the answer to that. I just have the questions. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, let's probably time for 1 or 2 additional thoughts on this question. Anyone else want to share?
It just seems to me on a few of these, density is going to be a big issue.
Yeah. Any any thoughts or warnings for us?
We don't have the density. We're not a metropolitan area. We're not a St. Louis, where when you go to the Cardinals there, they don't go home. They don't get in those parking lots and drive away. They have something to do. We don't have that. We've got parking lots around our stadiums. Maybe our real estate friends can tell us how many of our athletes actually live here. They say they play in Arlington and the Rangers and the Cowboys. I didn't see that when I was a financial advisor. I didn't see that. But what I did see is what you saw, talked about assets moving away. When people started to age out, they couldn't take care of themselves. Their children came and they took them to Seattle, they took them to Chicago. And our bank would lose those financial assets because they were moving away because children were caretaking them where they lived in Lubbock or somewhere else. Oh, so those are some of the things we need to look at. And my pet peeve is driving down Division and seeing Gasoline Alley running from the east of 360 all the way to West Green Oaks. You know, we have a lot of automobile retail right there. I don't know what the answer is because I know we're not zoning. But that doesn't add to the eye appeal.
Yeah, great points. Okay, for the sake of time, we want to always try to get you out of here as scheduled. We're going to move forward with our couple of questions using Mentimeter. We'll incorporate this in some of our meetings moving forward. So one, it's a good opportunity to get familiar with it. There's a different code every time, so we'll always throw that in there. But you can use a QR code on the screen or in your handout. Or you can navigate directly to menti.com, which is MENTI.com. And then there's a code on the screen and again in the handout with the presentation, which is 4348-0443. And we just have two quick questions for you all. So I mentioned the kind of plan framework as it stands right now, which is, you know, a working framework, of course. We'll adjust it if needed moving forward. But in the blue boxes are some of these kind of major organizational kind of pieces that we talked about with livable and connected city, the complete city, healthy city, prosperous and innovative city, and regional city. Next to them are then some of the more traditional comprehensive plan elements that would fit in each of those. So what we're thinking, and I alluded to this a couple of times in the kind of discussion tonight, what we're thinking about is doing some working groups where you can kind of dig deeper into some of these. And we want to get some preferences versus just sort of randomly assigning you. So making sure that you're engaging in conversations when we do those deep dives that you're really interested in. And then rest assured, everyone will kind of hear and have an opportunity to, you know, talk about each topic, of course. So first, we want to know, what is your name? And this way we can, when we ask about which area you want to participate in, we'll know who said that. So if you can enter your name, the results are hidden. Aha. That's fun. So we have 17 responses so far. Ken or John, you know how many we should have? 18? 18 is correct. Oh, okay, great. Okay. And looks like some folks started to do it already, but you can express your interest areas. So 15 folks have already indicated, now all 17. All right, so the healthy city, we may have to recruit some folks for. It's a small group. And then the regional city piece as well, but looks like a lot of interest in livable and connected, which makes sense. It's a lot of the pieces of our built environment, the built city, the complete city, and then the prosperous and innovative city. So we will take this all into consideration, and if need be, reach out to folks if we're asking them maybe to participate in one of those groups that they express less interest in or no interest in. We will do so. All right, thanks Taylor. All right. And then one more thing to write on your sheets. We're hoping that you could indicate, hopefully you have a little space left on that, that little half sheet that you were using. But places you think are really good examples that we could learn from for Arlington. This could be another place in the region. It could be another place in Texas. It could be another place around the country, around North America, around the world. And even better if you can, jot a few words of why you think that would be relevant. So as folks are providing that info, again, what are some places we might learn from, look to as examples or for inspiration in different areas and indicate why? I'm going to turn it over to John to talk about our future meetings.
Awesome. So we do have an opportunity to meet in December. I do understand that the date is near Christmas, so we will have a discussion as to if the committee would like to meet in December. One of the big reasons why this meeting could become pivotal is for the naming, logo, and branding, and getting that created in time for our public engagement launch in March. Aside from y'all, we will have council to also receive input from, as well as analyzing a lot of the input that we received through the naming survey. So this could become a pivotal meeting. So I just want to put that out there. But I do want it to be something that's fun for all of us to really just engage in a much more inviting, and not to say has not been inviting, but a more, give everyone some more time to chat. So along with talking about the naming component of it, I'd like to give everyone a better opportunity to do some more icebreakers because we will be spending a lot of time with each other over the next 2 years. And as this process really starts ramping up, really engaging with everyone on a more intimate level, and building that camaraderie that we're really going to need and will pay dividends in the long run will become harder and harder to do as we go deeper and deeper into the plan. So the idea for December would really be to keep it light, may not even be the full 2 hours like what we did tonight, get the naming feedback and do some icebreakers with y'all, but I will leave that up to y'all to kind of chat about and decide. For January, depending on kind of what happens or doesn't happen with December, we will talk about that more. But those are the next 2 dates. I did realize I made an incorrect date on my previous email. I said January 19th, so that is definitely not correct. It will always be the third Thursday of the month. So that'll be the easiest way to remember that. And then moving forward, so December and January, we will start working with the consultants on crafting the the document review and policy audit. We will be delivering a lot of GIS data and all of the city's open portal data, as well as all of our plans and policies, and they will begin reviewing that. And then we will also, by February, of course, finalize the name and then begin our public engagement. During this time as well, we'll be drafting the community engagement plan, and that will be with Robin Williams' team as well as MIG leading that effort. So that is, I believe that's pretty much the end of this agenda. One last thing, I got one email that I heard from today that there's been some, my emails haven't always made it to your inbox. If that is also you, I've sent about 6 emails now, 5 or 6. So if you're trying to count in your head how many emails you've received from me and that's not the case, definitely check your spam or junk folder, because that's where, at least for 2 other committee members, my emails have landed. So if you don't hear from me for some type of time where it becomes awkward, give me a call. Thank you all.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Name badges, just take them off and put them right in front of you if you could. Thank you.
And please leave your headline exercise with the notes that you wrote on the back too at your seat, please. Ken,
So
leave it, please. Yeah.
let me let you know about an opportunity. If you are not able to come to the next meeting, There will be videos available that we'll be able to see on the city website. So can we get an idea of, are there people that are not able to attend on December the 19th? Does everyone think they can make it?
There's one hand in the corner.
Okay. You should just bring him as a guest.
You could bring him along.
Yeah.
And I,
So what you can do is you'll be able to see the meeting. And you should be able to see that within, a relatively short amount of time. So, I want everyone to feel like they're part of it. And so if you have to miss, at least you can understand what transpired. So when you come back, you're not missing information. Yes. Nina.
I won't be able to attend January, and I'm wondering if I can virtually attend.
we'll need to kind of think about that because we would prefer that y'all are here, of course. So we'll definitely want to chat about that more. There were kind of, some health purposes as to why Ellie and some other members were attending virtually. But let me get some more information on that. Absolutely. Australia, what time would that be?
Great. Ken, anything in closing?
Well, I guess my closing statement would be, wow, what a great group we have. Man, I tell you, you guys are going to be rock stars. And I really appreciate the different viewpoints and the perspectives that you have. So we have to share with each other, and there's no bad ideas. At this point, we're in the beginning. There's no bad ideas. Every idea is worth looking at. And I really appreciate your dedication to this. It's a long process, but we're going to get through it. And I guess with that,
Ken, before you
yes.
adjourn real quick. I guess this is maybe a question for legal. If we get together informally outside, we're not violating the Open Meeting Act or anything like that because we're not elected officials. So, I mean, if informally, like a happy hour or something like that, we get together, is that okay? Or are we not allowed to?
I'll have Galen answer that.
The important thing is to keep in mind that if you meet and discuss business, or if you discuss anything involving what you might discuss later at a meeting, then it could be a quorum issue. We have what we call a walking quorum problem in Texas, where unfortunately you have 3 or 4 people get together and then they hang out with 3 or 4 other people, and then they create basically a quorum by proxy. If I take a note and I hand it here to Zach and he hands it around the table, none of you actually said a word, but the person at the end can look at the note. And if each one of you make a note on it as it goes around, then you've basically created a quorum, even though none of you have said a word. So we highly recommend that if you do any kind of informal meeting, that you always, you never go over the quorum number. The nice thing about this size group is that it is large enough that your quorum is 10. So it'd be very difficult to have a quorum unless, of course, like I said, the smaller group has meetings and then talks, and then they talk to a larger group. Also, another issue is emails. We encourage you, do not send emails to the group. Always, always, always send emails to John or send emails to Tabitha. Or of course, if you have a legal question, you can send me an email, but do not send it to the entire group. Reply all is the bane of our existence. Oh, thank you.
Thank you for that. If there's no other further business, then we can go ahead and adjourn this meeting. Thank you. Oh, wait, one more thing. We gotta have a consensus on December's meeting. Just to show of hands, how many people want to meet December 19th? Keep this thing rolling. Looks like we have a majority. So we got what we need. All right. Thank you for your patience with me. This meeting is adjourned.